All
So it was
right,
chapter
okay.
7, wasn't it, this time?
Yeah. Yeah, so that chapter was called, and what I think Martin's done, Tony, is Martin's obviously looked at it all and then he's broke it all down into little chapters and then put his own brand on it and then posted it so we could all just watch it chapter by chapter and listen to it. And then obviously we're just making little notes and what our thoughts are relating to that particular chapter. So look, I'll kick off, no problem. And as I say, we'll just have a couple of minutes each on that, and then we can maybe pass over to Russ to take it from there. So, well, chapter 7 was entitled Seeds of Fear. And again, this is just my kind of summary of it, but it was talking about, obviously, your thoughts and how a lot of your thoughts are controlled by fear, or your thoughts create the fear. And that we've really got to, and this is just, and again, all for me, but we've really got to trust our own thoughts and be willing to be strong enough to have our own thoughts on certain things and not be overly influenced by outside powers. Now, whether that be the devil, the media, the church, or anybody else for that matter, or any of the fear that they create. And of course, as Cheryl's rightly said in previous calls, right now and for the last several months, you know, the vast majority of the world's population have been in fear of losing their job, losing their financial income, being unable to pay the bills, being struck down by COVID, etc., etc., etc. And of course, the media is bombarding us with this every minute that they possibly can. So, and whether we believe it or not, we take it on board, we soak it all in, and then we press the panic button, and the fear just grows and grows and grows. And it's a difficult thing, but we've got to try and pull back a wee bit from that media, from the news, from the newspapers, from other people that were picking away in our ear, and try to realize that the more we get sucked into this stuff, the more impact it's going to have on us. So that's my thoughts on the fear. Power of thoughts. Well, coming back to the thoughts and controlling your rhythm, whatever you think, be it positive or negative, is ultimately, I believe, what's going to be the outcome. Now, whether that's again financial or your health or any aspect of your life, and a lot of the thoughts will then create habits, and those habits will then be formed through that rhythm, and again, they will dictate whether or not we become successful in our lives or we feel miserably in our lives. So we've got to be extremely careful with these thoughts and how we control them, basically. But it's one thing having thoughts about things and being positive, but again, whether it's financial or whether it's your health or whether it's relationships or whether it's whatever it is, thoughts by themselves will not create the outcome. You've got to back those thoughts by actions, and you've got to make demands on yourself. So again, if it's lose weight, get healthy, make more money, build a stronger relationship with your partner, your kids, your mother, your father, whatever, you've got to make a decision that that's what you're setting out to do, and nothing's going to stop you. So just in a nutshell, that's what I got out of that little 10-minute section, Yeah. So over to whoever.
Me? I'm
Glenn,
happy
you
to
want to have
go.
a go?
Yeah. Fiona.
Or Fiona?
Yeah. So for me, I actually found it was actually just sort of like a repetition of what had gone before. I felt like there wasn't really anything particularly new in it, but with the title Seeds of Fear, and it talked about environment, and what I got out of that was that like if you've got fertile soil, things are going to grow well. So you want to plant yourself amongst fertile soil. So be in a mastermind with like-minded people, surround yourself with positive people, and there's that saying in the Bible that bad company corrupts good character. So yeah, that's very short, but that's really what I got out of it. And yeah, the hypnotic rhythm, you know, like if you're always walking in step with someone, you're going to become like them. So you want to make sure that your environment is conducive to what you're hoping to achieve. So yeah, that's it for me.
Sure. I'll jump in there. Yeah, I didn't take any notes, admittedly, because I was sitting somewhere outdoors in some warmer weather. It was a nice short chapter, and for me, I suppose, I don't know, coincided with, or just happened to be at the same time I was finished reading a book that Tony actually lent me, Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And there's a lot of stuff in there that really resonated with me around sort of why am I doing what I'm doing and trusting my own thoughts, and not so much follow other people, but look what other people do that's working for them if they sort of fit with you. So that sort of that rhythm, and I don't know, synchronicity is a word that's coming up for me, but it's probably not quite right. But whatever that works for me, and I feel very, very comfortable with that, then, you know, take the pieces of what they're doing and, you know, look for ideas, not necessarily follow them in the same sort of way. I think I did that in my younger years, and probably came unstuck a little bit, not so much from a working life, but probably a little bit of a private life. And also the piece around, the children, and it keeps coming up for me for the last couple of years on conditioning, you know, until you're 7 years old, your brain's like a sponge. And then you just get, you know, told you then from 7 to 14, you go to school, and then from 14 to 21, you're supposed to go to university. I buck the trend, and there's a conversation that's going on here in Perth at the moment, which brings a couple of things up for me. At about 19, as my mates told me at the time, I left town and joined the circus. So I went on a travelling fun fair for 6 months. So the conversation that's going on in Perth at the moment is the agricultural show, the big show in September, has just been cancelled by the state government due to COVID-19 fears. Although there's no community transmission here in Perth, they've shut it down. So all those guys that were talking to them on the radio this morning said, "I've got loss of income and it's all going down the drain." But that for me was a big eye opener, and I've just come back from that area that we travelled in when I was back in '86, and it hasn't changed. But it's just a big thing for me at the moment is look at where I am. I'm getting very, very comfortable doing what I'm doing. And on from that, looking really segue into, looking forward to Russ's training next weekend.
Thank you. So Tony.
Yeah, I'm actually reading the book. I'm nearly finished it. Rather than I'm a visual learner, so I prefer reading to listening. I do listen to audiobooks as well in the car and so on. So like Fiona said, there's a certain amount of repetition through the book, and because I have jumped ahead, I might be sort of relating to a few things that I read further on.
It's okay.
But looking at the highlighting that I make as I go through, it's definitely what I liked about this chapter was there's a certain sort of reference to the fact that it doesn't matter what your religion is. Whatever you want to call it, it talks about the comparison between connecting with the universal force, which most people would call God, but if you've got a different religion, that's fine, or the devil, and that in this case the devil being, so it's either, if you like, good or bad, or good or evil, and whichever you choose to synchronize with or to relate to most, you then start to, through repetition, form a habit of connecting with that way of thinking. Mm-hmm. So as he talks about at various stages through the book about becoming a drifter, we're very much being influenced by the media at the moment with the, it's all doom and gloom and the world is falling apart and everything's going wrong. But at different stages through the book, he refers to this kind of example as, this was written in 1938, remember, and yet we're getting repeat patterns of all of these things. So everything with nature is cyclical. And he's talking about how, just the impact of fear through global circumstances is a cycle, a repeating pattern that will come up again and again. And we faced similar things in the past. We had the October '87 crash. For most of us would remember that. I'm pretty sure all of us would remember that, I think. So you get those sort of, whenever there's a pandemic or a global scare, then it's followed by impact on the stock market and so on. So we're very much influenced by the prevailing mood of the zeitgeist, the mood of the time. And therefore we can easily fall into a rhythm and be influenced by all those external factors. And I felt very much that this period for me, where one of our main goals has always been to travel the world, and we actually had holidays booked to go in June to America, Canada, Alaska, and then I should be in Bali right at this moment. And yet we've looked at this year, both my wife and I, as a year of traveling inwards instead. So instead of going on these journeys and exploring other cultures, being overseas, we've looked at it as a journey within us and an opportunity to put more time into reflection. I don't think I've ever done as much reading as ever before. Watched more positive YouTube videos. I'm basically filling my mind with really positive stuff, despite all this doom and gloom that we're being bombarded with, on news. I tend not to watch local news because I find that too annoying and depressing. But even on the global news bulletins, we're being bombarded by all this everything going wrong, and of course it coincides with the American election year. So you've got all the political haranguing going on there between the candidates. Yeah. I think that it's very easy to fall into a negative hypnotic rhythm, and which is what he's talking about in this chapter. And the great thing about finding this group and this mastermind is it's all very much focused on establishing a positive rhythm and combating everything that's going on out there in the external world. So, he talks here about that all successful people use hypnotic rhythm, either consciously or unconsciously, by expecting and demanding success. So it's an opportunity for us to tap into that potential and form new habits and form a habit of success and just constantly consuming positive stuff that's going to enrich us and empower us. That's my take on it.
That's pretty damn strong, Tony. I want to comment. I've changed my mind. I want to comment on what I've been seeing with the book so far, and these are more like observations rather than conclusions. So one thing that I observed is there's a lot of metaphors obviously here, and one of the metaphors that I really like is the metaphor of drifting. How they talk, this keeps coming up, that drifters, and this is why they drift. And I don't know about you, but what that immediately pulls up for me is something drifting in the ocean. And when something drifts, what moves it? What moves something that's drifting? What moves something is the tide. The tide and the pull of the tide is what makes something move when it's drifting. And the tide here is life and circumstances and what's around us. And so when we drift, we're drifting with the pull of what's around us instead of taking control of our thoughts and making conscious decisions about what we want to relate. Like somebody once told me, one of my mentors, and you always hear me say things like this, but these are profound things. He said, it's not events in our life that impact us. It's not. It's our relationship to them. And if you take COVID, for example, like people are influenced on the way to think and react to this, which is a type of behavior that's never occurred before. There's been lots of viruses before. There's been lots of different things. So is this really the most awful virus that's ever affected the earth? And we need to totally change our behavior and create a new normal, which, by the way, the next person that says that to me, I'm going to slap them. New normal. It's like, when I hear things like that, I think about this. It's not events. It's not suicide. It's not cancer. It's not death. And when you hear the devil speak about this in Outwitting the Devil, he's talking about how he uses fear to manipulate drifters. He uses fear. And fear is a construct of the mind. It's a primal instinct. It's something that often is irrational, and yet look at the impact that it has on our behavior. And so as I'm listening to this, and I haven't read it, which I've got to do, Tony, because I'm like you. I have a different reaction when I read something than I do when I listen to it. But I think I'm probably an audiophile. I love to listen to things too. But what occurs for me are the reoccurring themes here. The reason there's so much repetition of things is to me, Hill is trying to communicate that noticing the repetition is what breaks the pattern. Like what we don't know when we're in a pattern. We don't see it. You heard, I think last week I used the example of water to the fish. A fish doesn't have a distinction for water. Fish doesn't know it's in water. It's just there. And that's like things around us, is we don't have distinctions for the patterns that we're in. And that's why we go this way or go that way. And it's of course, it's part of the human struggle. And this is all just, as I said, just my observations. But the reason I love things like this is they cause me to notice things. It causes me to notice things that I wouldn't normally notice unless it was being pointed out. So that's probably the most valuable thing that I've taken away from this, is it's caused me to think about how we are as human beings, how manipulated we are. And of course, you bring up, the political climate here, and Tony, it astounds me how easily people are manipulated by information. It astounds me and it frightens me. Anyway, enough of that. So that I had to chime in on Outwitting the Devil. That's enough.
I just add something to that, Russ.
Yeah, please do.
When you were talking there, is that most of the health professionals that we listen to are saying that the virus is basically our own immune systems can combat the virus in the majority of cases, unless you have already, if you're elderly and you have various other things wrong with you, that would suggest that your immune system is probably already compromised to a certain extent. So if you look at the stats, most of the people who've actually died from it have usually had something else wrong with them already.
Yeah, they've had a comorbidity.
Yeah. So if you consider this with what he's saying in Outwitting the Devil, this in a sense is our own ability to immunize our mental health. We can immunize ourselves against the negativity.
That's great, Tony. That is brilliant. That is brilliant. That's exactly. That's what a great.
Tony, could you just? Sorry to interrupt. Could you just say that again, Tony?
No, I'm busy interrupting him. Please.
Well, what I was saying is that the pandemic is all about our physical immune system being compromised, and therefore we're more likely to. The people who die from it are the ones whose immune system is already compromised. In the same way, what they're saying in Outwitting the Devil, what Napoleon Hill was saying, is that we can immunize our mental health against the tides of discontent, if you like, if you want to use Russ's analogy of so that we don't drift. We can immunize ourselves against that negativity by filling ourselves with positive, inspirational, and empowering content, and mixing with people of similar mindset, and therefore immunize ourselves against becoming part of that tide of drifting.
Wow, that's great. So positive thoughts are an inoculation for the mind.
Can I just add something else to that? Because Tony Robbins talks a lot about this. I'm always cautious about using the word positive. I prefer to use the word empowering.
Yes.
As part of nature, there's always the yin and the yang. There is always going to be negative, but it's how we label things.
Yes.
So what we think of as being negative at the time, later on might prove with hindsight to have been the most positive thing that ever happened. So
that's absolutely right. Yeah.
Things are not necessarily what they seem. They just are what they are. And so sometimes we're supposed to, it depends if you believe in destiny or whatever, but if you tap into the infinite consciousness, whatever you want to call it, God, whatever, higher consciousness, that has a greater purpose for you sometimes, that you may need to learn a lesson in order to move in a better direction. So sometimes when you, and this is one of the things Napoleon Hill's relentless about, is our ability to fight or conquer adversity is all to do with our mindset, that when things don't work out the way we thought they were supposed to, that's when we become disappointed because we haven't, you know, things haven't gone to plan. But maybe that's just part of teaching us a lesson so we can go in a better direction and still get to the end result. You know, the journey to success, whatever success is to you, is not a straight line. It's always, you know, fraught with detours and setbacks and obstacles. And so this whole concept of outwitting the devil is about immunizing yourself against setback and failure. And as he says it several times in the book, you know, you only really fail when you actually quit. And usually that's right. What, 3 feet from gold, or whatever the saying was. So it's, you know, by immunizing ourselves, by working together, by filling our minds with empowering content, we empower ourselves that we don't really take setbacks as too much other than the feedback we need to move in a slightly different direction, and we still get to the end result.
It's excellent. Excellent. And what I would say, just to as a comment or an add-on, is it's our relationship to positive and negative where we get in trouble. Because we have it. Have you ever heard somebody say, "Oh, I don't want to deal with that. That's negative"? Well, you know, yeah. Now, how well are you going to do if you can't deal with negative? If you can't even hear it, you can't even see it. There's always a positive and a negative to everything. And negative isn't bad. It's the other side of positive. It's negative, you know? And so you know, when it comes, for instance, to applications in business, for instance, I will tell people that, you know, to the degree that you can make it okay for somebody not to do something, to give it the choice, to give people a choice, that's where the resistance disappears. The resistance occurs when you have to make them wrong by overcoming an objection. Like, an objection isn't a bad thing. I tell people one of the things that I look forward to, and I've even thought of going to the extent of creating a button. And the button that I'm going to wear around just to create conversation says complaint department. So I just would love to have somebody say, what the hell does that mean, complaint department? I'll say, well, it's okay to complain. You got a complaint? Boy, do people have complaints. And, you know, it's not okay to have a complaint because that's negative. Nobody wants to listen to your complaints. You're whining about what isn't working and what's wrong. They don't want to listen to complaints. Guess what? Do you know what's underneath the complaint? A concern. Do you know what the pathway to service is handling a concern, because concerns and commitments are what drive all people's actions. So if you can hear a complaint, and more, you can hear what's underneath of the complaint, which is a concern, guess what? So how well will you do if you can't be with complaints? So if the objective is to serve, is to handle somebody's complaints or concerns or commitments, you have to be with positive and negative. You have to be with negative, certainly, don't you? So anyway, sidetrack. All because of you, attorney.
It's a great point, Ross, because if you think about a coffee shop or a restaurant, and we've all been there, we all go in and we order a meal or whatever we order, a sandwich, coffee, and either the food's not very good or the service is not very good or it's overpriced or whatever. But we very seldom, if ever, complain about it. And of course, what we do instead is just say, I won't go back. Whereas if we complained about it and the people in that restaurant or coffee shop would welcome that complaint, at least they can do something about it because you've got a concern and they're listening to your concern. And then they could handle that concern, and then they could hopefully make the changes to improve the service, the product, the price, the whatever, which means ultimately you come back and it's repeat business. So it's a massive point. You're right. None of us like hearing people coming away with their concerns or the complaints, but really everybody's got them, or most people certainly do. And unless we're willing and able to listen to them and deal with them, then how do we expect to move forward and improve?
Right, and our culture, Ricky, has made it. Our culture has made it almost impossible, not completely impossible, but certainly uncomfortable. Our culture has made it. It's not polite to complain. Okay, it's not okay to complain. Okay, and if you're running a business establishment, you want to hear complaints, especially if they're framed a certain way. So I'd suggest to everyone here, if you want to have some fun sometime when you actually do have a complaint, ask for the manager, ask for somebody. When they come over, you say, I have something I want to tell you and I really don't know how. I'd like to make a complaint, but it's not personal. I love this place. I'm going to offer you something that doesn't work for me, and it's a complaint, but I don't want you to hear it as something bad, because complaints aren't bad. It's just, that's the way people hold what complaints are bad. It's bad if somebody's complaining. No, actually it's not. It's actually good if you change what happened around the complaint and it gets more business. It's a good thing. But in the framework of how we speak and language and how our relationship is to the word complaint, people are like, that's bad. If you're getting complaints, that's bad. Well, if you're getting lots of complaints and you do nothing about it, I'd say that's really bad. Or if you can't hear complaint, people are complaining, but they're doing it away and they're not telling you what the complaints are, then that's bad. What you want is for people to tell you what's not working, right? So it's like, it's a new way of being. But once you start practicing being this way and paying attention, what happens is people are like, I've had owners give me free meals because I complained. And I didn't complain to get a free meal. I demand a free meal because I've got to complain. They were like, oh my God, that's so important. Let me do this. And I'd say, you don't have to do that. I love this place and I want to see you stay in business. And that just doesn't work. And it's amazing how people hold you for having the courage to complain. But most people, if they complain, they do it in a way that people can't hear it. They just throw something out there like a turd in a punch bowl, and suddenly everybody's upset, and it doesn't have to be that way. Anyway,
just to add to that, Russ, you've just been using what I was taught as a young manager in retail to do, and that is the praise sandwich. You give somebody some praise to start off on a positive note. Then you introduce whatever the complaint or concern or what you want to see them improve.
A praise sandwich. That's great.
On another positive note, so you've got the shit, if you like, a sandwich between the two positive good things.
Well, I call it creating an opening. So creating some safety to say something, and that's, for me, that's more what it is, because I'm like. And I'm worse as I get old, but for a long time, I'd be the last one to complain. I would just be unhappy about it and blame, that's me. I'd take my complaint with me and, the heck with you, so it's not that way anymore, for me.
Unfortunately, most people vote with their feet. They don't bother to complain at the time. And in fact, it's very much an English thing. If you ask someone, oh, no, everything's fine, because they don't want to complain. Yeah. Then they'll go away muttering to themselves and to everybody that they come into contact with about, the bad thing. But they didn't give the business the opportunity to fix it.
Resolved. Complaints are a contribution. Can we all agree? Okay, good. Did somebody? Oh, that's my Aspen. Is that Aspen chiming in there?
Again. So I was going to say that obviously it's just constructive criticism at the end of the day, and I think it'd be so much better if people did complain, because you see so much on social media where people get taken through the shit, really, and it's not fair because they've not had the opportunity to put it right, and obviously that can then go viral and damage some businesses, which is really sad.
Great. Absolutely. So what do you want to do now? You want to hear about my course?
Yeah, let's have a
I'll
chat
go
about
on
your
it.
course, Russ. Go on then. Go on then,
Well,
Russ. Go for it.
we've already got a shill on here, and Glenn, who enrolled in it the moment I told him about it, which was a great honor, Glenn. Thank you for that. Okay, so here's the elevator speech about it. I have a life work, something that I've been developing over 30 years. And it's a philosophy, and it's also a methodology. And it was originally developed out of my opinion that network marketing, the way it's been taught and trained and done for I don't know how many decades, but certainly the 4 that I've been engaged in it, pretty much doesn't work for people. Like it's not that the system of distribution doesn't work. That works fine. That works to the tune of 200 billion a year. But it's how people behave in it, the way they've been taught to do it, what they think it is, the image that's been created around it that doesn't work. Now, even in spite of that, 200 billion in sales is done in network marketing globally every year. That sounds great. That's big, really. But what's off about it for me is that there's 100 million people doing it. Now it's not so big anymore, because that means the average distributor produces $1,900 in sales a year, not in commissions, in sales. Okay, when you start breaking that down in commissions at 5%, that's not so good in terms of the average earnings. So much is this a problem that mythology has been created to try to boost the image of it. More millionaires have been created. Nonsense, not even close. It's now taught at prestigious universities like Harvard and Columbia. Nonsense, not true. Sorry. And there's a lot of crap, in my opinion, that gets a new layer of shellac on it and trotted out as something new. That's the same stuff that's been going on for, now, is there value in a lot of what's said? Yes, there is. But the paradigm for training has been, at least as long as I've been here, has been predominantly around motivation or tips and techniques in terms of getting results. And some time ago, some 30 years ago, I decided to challenge not the system of distribution itself, but the model for how it was being done and thought of and trained. And that started with research in where people struggled in it, going not only by my own experience, but interviewing many and really looking into it. And I found that there were these common denominators that kept occurring, like things that people had in common with the resistance to network marketing, with the failure or lack of success in network marketing. Here were these areas. I broke them down into 3, and then there was other pieces that related to these 3. But the 3 areas were: where do I go, what do I do, and how do I do it? That's just almost like a joke, but the where do I go piece has to do with prospecting. So the model for prospecting, the paradigm of prospecting, and not just multi-level or network marketing sales, but in direct sales and many other types of businesses that are sales, that have to have sales, is that there's a warm and a cold market, right? I mean, everybody knows that, right? So the warm market is obviously people you know, and the cold market is people you don't. So if you've run out of people you know because you've already burned them all on opportunities that didn't work, and now you have to figure out a way to go to people you don't know, which most people are uncomfortable with or think they are. That's not really true. But what's the insidious thing about this particular belief system is, I believe it's false premise. Whether you know someone or don't know them isn't what makes them a prospect. Huh? So what if that's so? What if it's not whether you know someone or not that makes them a prospect, which means maybe a prospect's a family member or a neighbor. Maybe it's somebody that you don't know. Now what? Well, now it creates a whole new possibility for prospecting for people because they're out of that box of warm and cold market. So that was one piece. And what I started to do is explore a new way of creating prospects. That was, I mean, look, the entire cottage industry of leads and lead generation. I got hot leads over here. That was born out of people's concern of going to the warm market. Give me some fresh people to talk to. Like suddenly the cold market is all right if you have a script, which leads me to another false belief system, which is, again, in my opinion, that it's what we say that causes people to take action. I don't believe that's true either. Not that it's not important. You can't just say anything, but what's important is what you hear. If you're listening for something, what to say occurs naturally, but most of us aren't listening. We've already got a pitch. We've already got an idea of what to say. We're even told what to say. Just say this to get somebody to do or buy this. So that was a very rich area to explore. The next area was the whole area of selling and recruiting. The two most important actions to build a business are moving the product and enrolling distributors that move the product, correct? And yet people hate selling, don't want to sell. So what's the answer to that? Oh, just share it instead. Just don't sell it. You don't have to sell it. It sells itself. Just share the, okay, well, how good do you think people are at that? And then when it comes to recruiting, most of the time, even the way that's trained looks like either dragging, kicking, and screaming or begging. Now, let's have lots of fun in network marketing. The last piece is the planning piece, the how do I do it piece. And of course, there's lots of solutions around that about goal setting, time management. But I think it's been a long time since somebody explored those for what's missing in them for today's people with all the kinds of different conditions and things that have happened, and really understanding that model, again, in my opinion, is bankrupt. It's not that goal setting isn't a good thing. It's how people are taught goal setting and what goal setting even is, where they have a certain expectation that if they put a picture of a Porsche Carrera on their refrigerator and they just want it bad enough, it's going to manifest itself in their driveway in 6 months. And that's just not how goal setting works. And time management, I personally have taken some of the best time management courses in the last 40 years that were offered, and I haven't found one of them to be about managing time. They're not. They're about managing actions and priorities. So what I did was I started looking for new ways to do this that would work, and I had to do that by having a hypothesis and then applying it to a business. So if I did it and it worked, I could say, okay, this works, and I could teach it to somebody else. And suddenly, over the next year or two, I found a new possibility for people to do this with dignity, where they didn't have to be ashamed of it, where they got to be themselves, that they didn't have to learn how to be or do something else. They didn't have to remember tips and techniques. Motivating, you know what? People, we feel like we've got to keep people motivated. That's not our job. Plus, we can't. So something better than keeping people motivated is keeping them in action. And the way to keeping them in action as a possibility is to co-create a plan for their success that they design. And I have a structure or what I'd call a template for something I call a project. And a project is something that people can lay out any business that they're taking on and see what their objectives are, see what they're building. You've heard me say the 4 questions that you want to ask yourself is, what am I building? Who does it include? What does it provide? And why would somebody want to be a part of it? So after doing this and building organizations, and like just the project distinction, for instance, I was in a personal development course that was teaching me an ontological approach to life. And it was not a coincidence that it was that during that period of time, I was trying to find a way to make network marketing work. So I made network marketing work my project. And my parameters were to earn $10,000 a month and show 5 people how to do the same thing. That's what, and had I done that before? No. Had I earned $10,000 a month before? Yes. But I never like, okay, I'm going to earn 10,000. I'm going to show 5 people how to do the same thing. And I'm going to use these new ideas and principles that I'm learning. So I set a goal to do that. The year before, I earned $40,000 in network marketing for the year, which actually at that time was pretty good. It wasn't cutting a fat hog, but it was pretty good. And then I learned how to create a project. And what I wasn't counting on, because I told everybody, okay, you guys, this is what we're going to do. I didn't even know if it would work. I just said, this is what I'm doing. You want to do it with me? Yeah. I wasn't counting on people being better than I was at what I was suggesting. And they were. And what happened was their business started taking off, which made mine grow. Within the next 12 months, I made $385,000 trying out a new possibility for how something could work that flew in the face of what everybody else was doing. So I thought I was on to something, and I was. And over the course of the next 12 years or 10 years or so, I met a lot of great people. I touched a lot of lives. I was very honored to be regarded as a master. An article was written up in Success Magazine, which really boosted my stock. And I don't, still to this day, don't know how that actually happened, but just based on the company I was in. But it helped the credibility of what I was doing. And so then I started thinking about, instead of just building organizations, which for me was limiting, just sticking with a company, I started looking at people's relationship to companies and how that impacted their productivity. And I started doing Success by Design courses towards the end of the 1990s and into the early 2000s. And I taught seminars in the UK, and I got some people loved the training and embraced it. I do speaking engagements. Well, this went on up until just a few years ago. And in 2016, in February, I had a stroke. And I was so fortunate, because it was a serious thing, but Mayo's 15 minutes here from Mayo. The Mayo Clinic is 15 minutes away. I got rushed in an ambulance, had a complete recovery, which the odds against were great, but I got this great drug. And so I came out of that okay, but I came out of that changed because of the close call. And I started thinking about what I wanted to use the rest of my life for. And in the next 6 months, I got cancer. And I was fortunate again, because it was operable and removed and no remission, complete remission after that, no reoccurrence. About another 12 months goes by and I get congestive heart failure, but not the normal kind, pulmonary hypertension. I have a left ventricle dysfunction, and that scared me to death. So I was in a place where I was thinking, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Because if any of those things had killed me or compromised me physically in some way where I couldn't speak or I couldn't think or I couldn't write, what would I do? 30 years of my life's work would be lost. So I got this idea to create a new project for myself in 2017. And what I would do is I would find a way to get Success by Design's work and methodologies out in the world. And I would produce 1,000 cash flow millionaires in the network marketing and direct sales space. Now, that's a big mouth, big goal. But I had an idea how I would do it, because it's not like I hadn't produced a millionaire before. I'd done that several times, never a whole bunch by design. And I certainly knew I couldn't do that by myself. So I created a vehicle to put my training out called the Millionaires by Design Club. And that was a structure, an affiliate program just to sell my training to anybody in network marketing that was interested and was struggling, something a little bit different than maybe what they were used to. Then, interestingly enough, I found Noble Goldman, thanks to Ricky. And I saw another possibility with Mark's goal to create 1 million millionaires. Well, that was a real nice fit for me, but I got some benefits that I never expected. One benefit is when you coach successfully, and one of my coaches that's gone now, remember him always telling me, never trust a coach that doesn't have a coach. You know, and I started thinking, where am I going to find a coach? My coaches are dying. You know, they're older. Some of them were older, most of them. But how am I going to find a coach? And then I found a community of people that could coach me, of people that could contribute to me, of people that could allow me to grow, people that could give me feedback on my own coaching, people that I could coach, but learn from them and get multitudes more than I could ever put out. So what that's led to is a new commitment to complete my project, which ends June 30th of 2021. And I am as serious as a locked gate about people using this training and making $1 million in what they're doing. But you might say, so what, Russ? I mean, really, I mean, that sounds great and it's glorious and 1,000 people making $1 million. There's method to this madness. Remember, I said that I wanted to challenge the paradigm of network marketing and how it was taught. And I mentioned the figures of network marketing and how many people were doing it. Well, in order to earn $1 million in network marketing, and this is especially for you, Cheryl, what you have to do is you have to build an organization that basically does about 20 million a year in sales. 20 million a year. Because if you can average 5% on what you build, the volume that you build, 5%, which in some organizations and some companies you can average more, but let's just take 5%. 5% of 20 million, what is that? It's $1 million. It's 80,000 a month, right? So do you know what 1,000 people doing 20 million is? It's 20 billion in sales. 20 billion. That's 10% of the gross of network marketing worldwide. That, I believe, is enough to change the paradigm. People say, wait a minute, wait. Everybody that's doing it this way, it's working. It's working. And that's just 1,000. What if there's 10,000 or 20,000? And you know, I might not live to see that, and I don't care. And it's not he changed network marketing that I want as my epitaph. The method is this, that if I can partner with 1,000 people, and I will know all of them, even though I'm not responsible for all of them, they will come from the people who get this training and own it. And that's my purpose, is to give it away, not sell it. Selling is put some value on it so people go, wow, that's a bargain. Look what I learned here, $10,000 worth for $200. It's that people use it, own it, put their own special fingerprint on it. And it shifts their productivity. And they're in charge. And they're applying and sharing my thoughts. And so if they do that, and if they make $1 million, I'm going to challenge them once they've made their million or their 200,000 or whatever the figure is, that the next year that after we've hit their goal, they take 1 month of pay and they contribute it to something called the Success by Design Global Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization to do good in the world after I die, to give to children and abused women, to first responders. There's a wonderful organization here in the United States called Tunnel to Towers, where if a fireman or a policeman or a soldier is lost, that this company pays their mortgage off for their family, so their family owns their home. Disaster relief. There's always disasters everywhere in the world, and there's never enough money that comes to handle the people that are at the effect of those disasters. And I won't live to see this foundation be its greatest, but if I can start it with 80 million, which, you know, 1,000 people given $80,000 is 80 million. The interest on that gives 13 to 15 million a year discretionary income, and it can grow from there. Properly invested, the more people that contribute to it. That's something my daughter can chair. That's something that will succeed me in life, that will have my life count. So that's what the purpose behind Success by Design is. And what I'm offering is simply a new possibility for life and business working for people. That's my pitch. Any questions?
Ross, could you just, I know you've got your introduction course starting on Friday night, your time. Can you just give us the basic details of that again and where we could go to find out the information? And
yes, and people can come in after the course begins, because every session will be recorded. So, and it'll be recorded twice, because each week I'll do one piece of the course. I'll do it Friday and I'll do it Saturday. So it begins Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific time, US, which is 11 a.m. on Saturday in Perth and 1 p.m. in Sydney. So the course on Friday is basically for the United States late and Australia morning on Saturday. Then I'm going to repeat the course at 8 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday. And I'm not going to take a recording and play the recording on Saturday. I'm going to do both live, because it's different every time I present it. So somebody can listen to it twice and get something different from it. But on Saturday, I'm going to do it at 8 a.m. Pacific time, which of course is 11 a.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. in the UK. So this way, I think I can pull in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, United States, and Canada by covering those zones. The course is $249 US. This course I've trained in 2 and 3 day weekend seminars, the exact same course for $10,000 a weekend. And I've also offered money back guarantees that no one's ever claimed. And I'm proud of that. Nobody's ever asked for their money back. I certainly hope they don't start with 249. I'll go broke. No, but. So is that what you wanted to know, Rick?
yeah, Ross, did you, sorry, I'm kind of driving again. I'll have to switch my camera off because I need to focus on the road. But
the site, I don't think I mentioned the site.
You got the link,
site,
yeah.
Yeah, the site that you go to is very simple. It's successbydesign.us. Successbydesign.us. We're capping each course at 100 people, but again, I will continue until we have the 100 people, even after the course has begun. Because
how long does it go for?
It goes for 8 weeks, and each session is 60 to 90 minutes. They're going to be interactive, so you won't just hear me, spout consistently and fall asleep. I want people to participate. There'll be homework. There'll be, we'll do reviews each week, and it will continue on. If people aren't complete and they have questions and they're not ready for the end of the course, I'll continue it. I'll continue it for another week or two at no charge. The idea is to get people familiar with the work. And I also want to create what I would refer to as a feeder program for Noble Goldman, because the intention of Mark, and we just had a call today with Mark and Declan and Lloyd, Success by Design is going to create a unique program for Noble Goldman as an MSI. So my training and everything that's available in the Millionaires by Design Club, plus new things, will be available for all the people that are in Noble Goldman as an MSI. And I'll be available. I'm going to start my own mastermind group teaching projects. So you must be a gold star. And if you have a project, no matter what your project is, you're welcome into my mastermind group. And each week, people are going to learn to coach projects, not just have one, but they're going to get the benefit of everybody in the mastermind actually getting the distinctions of coaching others in their project. Somebody will be generous enough to share their project, and then people will be able to give them feedback if they're open to it and what area they're not complete about or what's not working. And that'll sharpen our skills as coaches, but it'll also keep us on track in our own projects. So I'm excited about that as the theme for my mastermind group. I'm excited that this will help me get my workout. And then if I continue to do courses outside of Noble Goldman, the people in Noble Goldman, you know, won't be paid on whatever those courses are, but the courses will attract people to Noble Goldman, because if I charge $500 the next time, and people, rather than take that, can get in Noble Goldman and become gold stars and get constant training from me and have an MSI for selling Success by Design's work, everything works, doesn't it? I mean, do you see the thinking behind that?
Hey, Russ,
So, yes.
I just paid my money while you were talking.
No kidding, Fiona, did you really?
Yep, yep.
You sweetie pie, thank you very much.
I'm in.
Well, thank you. So again, that wasn't a pitch with the intention of getting you to enroll. It's really letting you know what I'm up to. And it's like I told Cheryl, who has been so sweet to me on these masterminds. And I just told her that I would coach her for free, or any of you. And what I want to enroll you in, if in fact you're building something and I can contribute to it, what I want to enroll you in is us working together to accomplish whatever it is you're up to. And being a part of that is enough for me. That's what my life's work is. So it's like a gift to me, allowing me to be part of what you're creating. And if I can make a difference, that's where I get my juice. So so there it is. I encourage you to participate, and you only have to do that once. I mean, because you don't have to keep paying for the course. All right. I mean, once somebody's completed the course, I consider them an alumni, and they can, I don't care what I'm charging for the course in the future, they can come back to it for free as an alumni. My only request is that they bring one paying member if they do. So that's it. Thank you for allowing me to share that tonight. I've had some trepidation about it because I didn't want to come on here and use this group to promote myself. So thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for sharing, Russ. And I think I talk for the rest of us on the call and a whole bunch of people in Noble Goldman in particular that we are looking forward to. And I think the project aspect of it is so poignant to all of us, because we start businesses and more often than not have really no idea where the hell we're going with that business. And so it's such an important thing. It's like buying a coffee, again, referring back to coffee shops, restaurants, any kind of business, but without having a business plan, what the hell are you doing it for, you know? So this is giving everybody, regardless of what, this gives everybody a plan, project, something to follow, milestones, conditions of satisfaction, just gives them a path, a guide.
Yeah, it's a structure. What's missing
yeah.
for a lot of people is just a structure to operate in. And it's funny because people said, well, Russ, how do you know you're going to hit your goal? I don't. But you better believe I'll be playing for it up till midnight on the 30th, of 2021, June 2021. And I don't know. And you know what? I don't care. And I don't want you to hear that I'm not committed to it. But so I get 1,000 half millionaires. What do I care? What if I get 3,000 $100,000 heirs? I don't care, because everybody will have what they need to make $1 million if that's what they're up to. They'll have it by that point. So my work is pretty much done, and I'll continue it as long as I breathe. And I can start something fresh, set a new goal to get there. So anytime you don't hit something, I've said this, I don't know that this is right, but it is the way I believe and the way I feel. The purpose of a goal isn't hitting it. It's what you get if you do hit it that you're committed to. So the purpose of goal is having a benchmark, having a way to measure what you're up to. That's the purpose of a goal. And what drives you is not the goal itself. It's what is provided when you hit the goal. So what if you need an extra day? It's your goal. It's your project. You can do it every way. You don't have somebody else telling you, how that works. You do it. The trouble is, I think, is people don't stop and think they're in charge of their life. They're really in charge of their own success. And that's really the flag I'm flying. That's why the company's called Success by Design, because it's not an accident. And some people are just waiting for something to provide them with success, a company or a person or a program. Like maybe if they just do one more of these, they'll be successful, when they haven't even defined what it means for them. So success, I say it this way, success doesn't live outside of us somewhere. It lives in here. And we can count on other people to help bring that out of us, because we're too close to see it. We don't know. So that's why we need other people. I pontificate a lot. I apologize.
Well, thanks, Russ. And Glenn, have you recorded this, yeah?
Me? No, it says it's recording, but I thought you were recording it.
Someone's recording it.
Somebody's recording it.
Oh, well, as long as it's been recorded, somebody's got it. It's probably, Martin's maybe got it auto recorded or something like that.
So there's going to be evidence. Should we erase?
Not at all, not at all.
Can I just add something to what you just said there, Russ?
Yes, please do, Tony.
You're saying, whoa. So success is not the hitting the goal. It's who you become in the pursuit of the goal.
Yes.
So that's, and also the impact that you have, or the influence that you have on the people around you as you pursue that goal. If it's done, in alignment with your moral compass, then you can only really have a positive and empowering impact on people around you as you pursue your goal. You will then, your commitment, your motivation will rub off on other people around you.
In the immortal words of Ricky Smith, bang on, Tony.
Not with the accent, though. I've got to get the accent right.
I've got to grab my credit card. It's in the other room.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And thank all of you. And I mean, I'm complete. And I, as always, I so appreciate this group. Thank you all.
Well, guys, I think we'll call it a wrap, because it's
yes, it's quarter
12 here. My good lady's got to go to hospital and get some stitches out today. So
okay. Well, thanks everybody.
Great call, guys. Yeah.
Thank you all so much. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Sorry I've not been fully in view, but I don't think you'd like to see the little toddler jumping on me half the time.
Right, Cheryl, don't worry about it. Yeah,
you give him a big kiss from Uncle Russ, okay?
I will do.
Okay. And I'll see you guys on see you on Friday or Saturday for you.
See you on the weekend,
send the Zoom link out or something, Russ, yeah?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Everybody that registers will be getting a Zoom link. Also, there's a Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, there's a Facebook community called Success by Design -training. So -training, Success by Design -training. And that community is just for people who have registered for the course. The link for the course will be on there, and so will the recordings. Everything will be in there, and it's just for people that are enrolled in the course. So I'm requesting you do that. And also I request that each of you, if you haven't done it, please send me your email and say I'm in, just so I can keep a list of everybody that's in and who my friends are, so I know them. Okay, so my email is really simple. It's Russ Devan, RussDevan @gmail.com. So Fiona and Tony and Cheryl and Glenn, you already have done that, but just write to me and say I'm in, so I have your email, and I'll make sure you get everything you need. Okay. Thank you.
Great call, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks guys for your contribution, everyone.
Thanks, Ricky. Love you as always.
Thanks.
Take care.
Okay.
Right, guys.
Bye-bye, guys.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.